Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Just Two Dads with my co-host, Mr. Shawn Francis. I am Brian Altunian, and we are doing our last episode of Just Two Dads for the year 2022, moving into 2023. And as we do at the end of every year, it is kind of crazy. And we do at the end of every year, we are working today on what the plans are for next year and where our focus is going to be. And we're going to invite you to participate with us and, plan your dreams and your hopes and your goals and your shop, but we're going to do it in a really effective way. So stay tuned for another episode of Just Two Dads. All right, welcome back, everybody. I am Brian Altunian here along with Shawn Francis. And we are doing another episode of Just Two Dads. I never know the number when I start this introduction. I think we're at 120, 121.
No, we're like 125 even, I think.
Oh my gosh. Holy cow. Holy cow. 125 episodes, right? It's kind of crazy if you think about it. Like, we didn't think that it was gonna actually be that way when we first got started. We didn't know what we were doing when we first got started. Well, we're excited to be here, and so if you're catching us live on Facebook, hello. Hopefully, you'll give us some comments along the way and see if the conversation we're having today is going to have an impact on you and your planning for next year. If you're catching us after the fact on YouTube, what'd be cool is if you actually see what we're doing now and write some stuff down, and then a year from now go back and look and see how you did relative to what you're planning.
You were more right than me. I think I think that this is actually like 117, so we're coming up on 120.
Okay, all right, 120 episodes. So, if you're catching us on Google Podcast or any podcasts, actually, I don't know why Google Podcast came in mind, but if you're catching us on any podcast outlets, welcome, and hopefully you give us some value today. Please make sure that you send us a comment, send us a note. If you're catching us on WSTX AM radio down the U.S. Virgin Islands, hello, welcome again to another episode of Just Two Dads. I want to thank Mr. Sean Hall in Hawaii, who has been our partner and our servant leader, really guiding us along the way as we build this Just Two Dads initiative. Has been an instrumental part of everything that we do. So thank you, Sean Hall, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. So as we jump into this conversation about planning, I've spent a lot of time writing business plans for companies, reviewing business plans as an investor at times. And when it comes to writing your own personal business plan, I think people get caught up in the idea of the form and the format. So we're going to go over that today and talk about it, because there is no true form or format when it comes to putting out your plans for the year. What are you up to? What are you shooting for? What are your aspirational goals? Some people like to have a really thick business plan that includes all their affirmations and all the things that they'd like to have happen. Some people just want to have one sheet that they can read every morning and every night. So we're just going to talk about some of the elements that go into all of that. So before we get into that, again, we don't have any guests today. It's just Shawn and I. Before we get into that, I just want to say Merry Christmas, my friend, and Happy Holidays to you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. We had a nice, quiet Christmas, and it was nice. It's a very interesting. I don't know, just an interesting time. It seems like the world seems to be falling in line with the things and the place that I'm at, in life. I think when you're growing up, you have Christmas, and it may be a very very religious experience in terms of how it is supposed to be. Because for most of us, the religion that we practice or that we're a part of is the one that we're indoctrinated. We don't choose that. Our family chooses that. And for some of us, we grow up holding fast to those traditions, and that becomes part of, who we are and what we do. And then some of us actually find our own religion and then move away from Christmas altogether. I've always been of the mind that I've been at conflict with regard to what's real in terms of religion anyway. And just because, as a result of that, I'm more spiritual than I am religious. And I believe that there's something greater than us, that somebody hears us. And there's reason to give thanks for everything that we have, and believe in a higher being, which is why on those bookshelves to the left of me, you'll find more than one Bible, you'll find more than one Quran, and you'll even find a Book of Mormon, none of which I purchased. They were all given to me. So I'm a seeker, so to speak. But that reason is why I'm so appreciative of what we're going to do here today. And I'm going to, try to give some, more than anything, justice to what Brian's going to jump into. So you hear people, in our business, we put together on an annual basis what's known as a business plan. I've sort of dropped that word and look at it as life plan, because it encompasses not only your finances, but the most important areas of your life, your family, fitness, and your finances. And you should actually include even fun in there. And what it really comes down to is just being as purposeful and intentional as possible with what you do and where you spend your time. And Brian's going to touch on a concept that we've both seen lately, and I've seen more and more of it. I think the universe puts in front of you that which you're looking for. And what our experience has been something that consists of putting on a piece of paper, clear as day, what it is that you want, what you intend to give in order to get it, which comes from the concepts of Napoleon Hill from the book Think and Grow Rich, and then putting together a plan and a set of affirmations as well. And it's very interesting because each year that, when my family asks me, well, what do you want for Christmas? And I'll be like, I'll always have a list of books, whether it's Christmas or my birthday. And one of them is the autobiography of the great Maurice White, founder of Earth, Wind, and Fire. And Maurice White was known to be someone that was into mysticism and a lot of spiritual things. But in the book, he talked about how not only was his life changed by The Laws of Success, which is a book by Napoleon Hill, but he says in the book that he believed it changed him on a cellular level in terms of how you put into place that which you want to do. And what Brian is going to touch on is the idea of return on investment. Where do you spend your time? Because if you think about it, the most precious thing on the planet is people. We don't always treat each other like it, but we are. The next thing, most precious thing to that is time, because how much of what we have dictates where we spend it with those that we love. And the other reason why it comes in second is simply because, like us, it is irreplaceable. So if you think about where you spend your time, it might sound a little selfish, but it's okay to be as selfish as you are intentional, which is, what is the return on my investment here? Not just what's in it for me, because sometimes you're going to get by simply giving. There's nothing to get right back. So we don't want to give the impression that you should simply talk about what's in it for me, but make sure that you're exchanging energy as opposed to giving it away. And if you start to think about, where you get the return on the investment of your time, considering that what you invested, you can't technically get back, that begins to change the way that you spend that time. And if you're a parent or a caregiver to someone with special needs, these things, like everything else in life, apply 10 times as much and maybe 10 times as more difficult. But if you can see your way through, it can be 10 times as more worth it too.
Yes. What he said. It was a lot. Like 45 things right there in one shot.
I know.
I saw I saw a video the other day. This guy said, what is it that you value most in your life? And some people would say money. I said, oh, I don't think so. To your point, put an exclamation on your point. He said, if I gave you $1 million, but if you had a choice of getting $1 million versus never seeing your family ever again, which would you choose? I said, well, I'd obviously rather see my family. So family is more important than money. And what if you had $1 million, but you lived alone? No, I'd rather not live alone. So, okay. So being in relationship with people is more important than money. It's, what if I said you have $1 million, but you only have a day left to live?
Mm-hmm.
Time is more valuable than money. So in those instances, there are so many things that are on the list prior to money, but we value money because that's sort of a societal thing that we believe that money is. But while I will say, obviously, money helps you live a life free from stress and free from, financial worry, but money is not
Yeah.
everything, even though we
Yeah.
value it.
Money's important because it gets you, because it can be the key to what is even more important than the money itself. And that's why, as we like to say, there's more to money than money.
For sure. For sure. So, and by the way, every holiday season, I always watch It's a Wonderful Life. It's my
That's
tradition.
right.
And, at the end of that, the man who has friends is, the wealthiest man in town. That really is something that I always think about. So there are times when people get stressed about not having enough money and not having, sufficient finances or funds to do the things that they want to do. It's interesting to value, if you think about it, what are the things that you want versus what are the things that you need, and thinking about how money applies that. There's a lot of difference. A lot of times, how many times have you heard, Shawn, like, I really want this, and then you get it, you're like, I didn't really want that. I mean, I'm really not getting value out of it, right? To your point, it's an
Mhm.
exchange of energy. So anyways,
It's like a,
we value,
it's like a,
yeah,
it's like a, I was just going to say, sorry. It's like a granular look at what you really, when you think about it, if you're someone who knows, plain and simple, what you really, 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 truly want, you're in a rare group,
sure.
because you have to really dig down at an unbelievable, probably microscopically granular level to get to what you truly want. Think about this. If there's a car that you want, right? Or a house, right? Something which is material. That's not even what you really, really want. What you want is the feeling that gives you.
Right.
And that alone is a heavy concept to really kind of, deal with. So the whole thing is
Sure.
like, what are you chasing in terms of a feeling? What do like when you help someone, you get something from that. There's a feeling that comes from it, and you're almost confused sometimes. You're like, man, this feels great. How do I get more of this?
Yeah. It's funny. I'm a big fan of Abraham Hicks. And
Mm-hmm.
Abraham Hicks, for anybody, who believes in sort of ascended mastery and just sort of listening to the thing. And there's a concept that Abraham Hicks talks about, which is the vortex, and it's exactly what you just said. The prompt that people say, wait, because it's along the lines of Think and Grow Rich, right? What your mind can conceive, you can achieve, kind of thing. Basically, that was all the beginning of the law of attraction and the concept of the law of attraction. We know people who have gotten to such mastery around that they're like, I have to stop pointing at things that I'd like to have because I keep getting them, but the idea that, it's not the getting of them, right? Because if you say, hey universe, if you're thrown out to the universe, or hey God, if you're religious and you're asking for God to pay you special attention, you sometimes say, hey God, I'd really like to have, make $1 million this year, again, whatever the number is for you. But the reality is, where the power is in the I'd like this because of the feeling I get. I'd like the feeling. I want to live in the feeling of this, of this accomplishment, achievement, acquisition, the acquiring of something. The feeling that we get, to your point, sometimes people say, well, I don't care where I live. I just want a roof over my house. I want the feeling of security. I want that feeling of having, a home for my family. Um, and so, again, to your point, I'm just echoing, it is the idea. It's not the acquisition of things or material items or anything. It is the feeling that those things bring us. And so, anyways, with that, we'll talk about, about planning. And one of the things I want to say, Shawn, too, and I know you're gonna kind of share. I had done a training on this, folks, and we had, talked about how the elements that go into a business plan. But one of the things that I found and I find to be a critical first step is the idea of placing value on your time. And the idea that if you don't place a value on your time, you really are kind of putting that out there. I don't want to say out in the universe, but you're putting that in the universe that you don't value your time, and so other people aren't going to value your time. I don't know how many of you have had the situation where your people are constantly, you feel like people are pulling at you constantly and you don't say no, and so you're doing a lot of things. That's because the message that you're transmitting, if you will, is, I my time is free. I'm wide open. I don't value my time, so I'm here to do anything I want. Now, I always think it's great to have to provide service to other people, but just thinking about the value that you place on your time. And by the way, there's the value, just again, to your point earlier, Shawn, about, the feeling of being, of having no control over your time or having a lack of time or all of that. But then there's a monetary value that you can place on your time. And so if you think about it, the activities that you engage in on a regular basis, and there are tons of books on habits and, creating mini days and, again, leveraging the time and being more productive with time. But at the end of the day, if you can just boil it down to how much value you place on your time, then the activities that you take on, they have a different monetary value, right? So if I think I'm worth, $500 an hour, just throwing it out there, and I'll tell you how we get there, then, and somebody wants me to read something, maybe review their business plan, or wants me to read something that they've written and give them feedback just as a friend. But think about how much time that's going to cost me, how much time it's going to take for me to do that. If it takes me 2 hours, that's $1,000. Am I providing $1,000 worth of value? A. B, is this something that is going to have an ROI for me, a return on investment? Or is this something I do? I'm not telling you not to help people or not to do something for somebody else. Just know that there's a value that you can place on your time. I spend every Sunday morning, I do the Sunday morning crossword puzzle. I love it. It's valuable to me. I just do it, keeps my brain, sharp, and I love it, and it's become tradition. So hold on.
I want to make sure that people catch that too. Go ahead. I'm going to comment on that after.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I value that. I value that time. I love doing it. I have my cup of coffee on Sunday morning, my Sunday crossword puzzle, and I do it. It takes me about an hour. And by the way, that is worth so much more than $1,000 to me because of the consistency, the custom, the regular Sunday activity, the routine,
yeah.
and the value I get on completing the crossword puzzle and my cup of coffee and just quiet time myself. It's worth a lot more than the $500 that it would have cost me for the hour. So go ahead and make it.
And that's what I want people to, because people, depending on, we talk about, like in our financial services business, we've changed the way that we talk with people, and we start talking about people's relationship with money, how you were raised, and the environment that you're in will say what your quote unquote love language is as it comes to money. And depending on what that language is in your association, you might be hearing this thinking, oh, so they're thinking like everything is about money. No, what we're saying is be intentional and know what the return on the investment is, because in some cases, that the return you're going to get on an investment of your time with someone that you give freely in terms of reading something that they may want you to look over, or the time with your family, whatever. Money has nothing to do with it. It's simply the feeling that you're going to get from the exchange of energy, being in the presence of somebody you love, or maybe helping someone. And then there's other times where it is about dollars when it comes down to it. But the thing is, if you don't differentiate those things, or don't have an identifier as to exactly what it is that you're doing, then the entire time that you spend on the planet is based on reaction versus intention and preparation and planning. Some of the stuff we're going to get into, ties into other things we've been talking about, which is like most people hope to live to a certain age. Maybe you'll eat healthy, take care of yourself, but it still consists of more hoping than anything else, because there's a certain amount of things that we just can't control. And one of the most difficult things to do is to let go of that which you can't control, but at the same time, identify the things that you can and hold on to those and take control of them. Most of us, what we do is we try to control all kinds of things, and we get caught up with stress because we're getting, worried about things that we can't control. And then some of us are at the other end of the spectrum where we just like throw your hands up and you have no control over anything, and your entire life is a reaction. We're talking about intentionality here. That's what it all comes down to.
Yeah, and so there's two things to this. One is the intention that you have with your life, and the second is the intention that you have with your business or your professional career. Now, we're huge fans of people starting their own businesses. There's a whole bunch of reasons why
especially
We
as
are
a
fans of
special
that.
needs parent or caregiver. Yeah.
Yeah. One of those, one of those is obviously there are tax benefits to having your own business. There are things that you can actually write off as a business expense easier with an established business. But it again, it allows you to have control of your time, because financial freedom is also time freedom. And again, that's why we've heard the expression time is money. And we're going to connect those two when we talk about this. And then we're still going on your personal value. And the reason I bring that up is, if you have a business and you're starting a business, maybe it's a home-based business, or it's a consulting business, or maybe you bought a manufacturing plant and you're manufacturing something, or you're an Amazon affiliate and you want to have a side income coming in, or you buy a piece of property and you have rental income coming in. The amount of time that you spend on building your business, so they said that there's the working on your business and working in your business, right? So there's a lot of value to working on your business. And, I would say a lot, and this may seem counterintuitive, but I think working in your business is where you have the opportunity to continue to build and grow, right? When you're doing the work to generate income, that's productive work, right? And so things like, and it'll be a little controversial, things like accounting, entering stuff into QuickBooks, categorizing the expenses, the receipts that you have of your businesses, that's working on your business. That's actually the things that have to get done. That's the to-do. But if you think about it, if you could hire somebody to do that for a few hours a week, somebody who's I had a friend, a consulting client years ago, who had his own business, and he wanted to enter everything into his accounting system and manage it and track it all. And I said, why do you want to do that? He said, I want to be able to control everything here. And I said, okay, that's fine. By the way, that's why those titles are called controllers, the people who actually do that work. And I said, okay, so how much accounting do you know? He said, well, I don't. I have to actually learn it. Okay, so you're going to spend time to learn accounting in order to do the accounting for your company. How much time is that going to take? Because if you think about it, if you hired somebody who already knew accounting, they didn't have to spend that time, and they're proficient, which means they're efficient, they're probably going to spend a lot less time doing the work than you're going to do in having to learn it and then do it and then correct mistakes and redo it and do it again, right? So this is, again, an example of how you value your time. If you could spend that same amount of time going out and getting a new client, or going out and getting a new customer, or building a marketing campaign that will actually improve your revenue stream, understand the value. There's more value to your business in the long term to do that than having to learn a new skill and figure out how you do the accounting. By the way, if you put a value on your time, you're going to find that you're going to be able to spend less dollars hiring somebody to do it for a certain amount of time than it would take you if you placed an hourly amount. So let's talk about that for a second. You cool with that, Shawn? We're going to talk about that for a second.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. You can interrupt me if I'm rambling. So let's say you decide that in year 2023 you want to make $100,000 in your business, and you also acknowledge that you need a couple of weeks off. And this makes it easy for math, by the way. Let's say you want to take a couple weeks off for vacation, maybe a week in the summertime and a week in the wintertime. So of the 52 weeks a year, you're going to spend 50 weeks working your business. Now, by the way, that could be Monday through Friday. It could be Monday through Sunday. It could be Tuesday through. You can decide, right? That's the benefit of having your own business. So if you want to make $100,000 working 50 weeks a year, that means that you've got to earn, leverage other people's time. I like that, Shawn Hall. You have to, it's $100,000 for the year, 50 weeks of the year. You have to earn $2,000 a week to do that. Okay, so $2,000 a week. Now, by the way, how many hours a week do you want to work, right? So if you want to work a full 40-hour week, you're making $50 an hour. So if you work 50 hours to make $2,000, 40 hours to make $2,000, you're getting paid $50 an hour. Now, I'm going to say, and those of you who have jobs, especially if you have a corporate job, chances are, even though you work a 9 to 5 or you work a 40-hour work week, if you count in the things like the time that that you go to the kitchen, or you go to the bathroom, or that you have a conversation that's not business related, you're probably not working a full 40-hour week. Actual work, maybe it's, what is it, 25, right?
Brian,
So 25. So yeah.
Interject just one quick thing. Again, if you're a parent or caregiver to someone with special needs, allow this to influence the way that you choose and leverage other people that are professionals that provide therapy or whatever the case might be. So that the end goal here is to make sure that you're making the best use of your time so that you have time to do what you want to do and spend time with your family or loved one that may need those things from you the way that you want to. Just keep thinking about that. Give and take. Go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
Yeah. So all of this activity. So let's say let's say you're working 25 hours, 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, really solid 5 hours, no distractions, no phone calls, just business, right? So that's $80, $80 an hour. So that's a way that you can actually now look at the amount of time and value in your time. $80 an hour to make $2,000 a week, get 2 weeks of vacation off, and making $100,000. So by the way, if you want to make $200,000, just double all of that. So now you think about that. So by the way, if you want to make $200,000 and it's $160 an hour, now you understand the conversation I was mentioning earlier about hiring an accountant, because maybe the work that it takes to actually do the accounting is only 4 or 5 hours total for somebody who's proficient in accounting. You could pay them $40 an hour, $50 an hour, so $200 a week or $250 a week, because your value is somewhere between $80 and $160 an hour, and you take more time because you have to learn that skill. Much better to, as Sean Hall would say, leverage other people's time, OPT, leverage other people's time who have value in that. By the way, when it comes to marketing, if you have to learn how to market, when it comes to building a website, if you have to learn what it takes to build a website, maybe that's not a good use of your time, where you could hire somebody on Fiverr or hire an independent contractor to build the website for you and actually add value where you can spend time on building your business. So that's kind of the idea, right? So now you, in your own business, you're leveraging your time, you're making more money. And then one thing I'm going to say is, if you take that time that you've now gained by not spending it doing all of that, and you watch TV, you haven't saved anything. In fact, anything has cost you more money, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you take that time and make that valuable and productive to expand your business and to build your business and to build your cash flow, your revenue streams, whatever it is, to further your business. Otherwise, you are now just paying out of pocket so that you can watch TV. So now you get it. As Shawn was saying, it's a mindset shift. It's a change in how you think about your use of your time and your return on that investment of your time and your money. So you want to make sure that you're doing something that's valuable. Now, obviously in the early days, you're starting a brand new business. A lot of times we set some stuff up ourselves. We set up an email address, a URL, our own website, and to kind of get things rolling. That's okay in the very beginning, because all businesses have startup expenses, right? All businesses start with some sort of amount of money or time or effort that it takes to actually start the business up. So I'm not talking necessarily about startup. I'm talking about maintenance and maintaining your business. You want to make sure that you spend a little time doing that, and then bring somebody on that can actually do the work that you don't want to have to learn a whole new skill to do. You say something?
At least a week or two ago, Brian made a comment with one of the episodes where we didn't have a guest, and he talked about how I tend to choose most of the topics that we come up with, especially when we don't have a guest. And this is just total transparency. We all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses, and there's things that we struggle with. And I, as an individual, so I chose this topic today. And the reason why isn't because I've mastered this, so therefore let's talk about this. There's things that I struggle with as a human being, just as everyone else does. And there's things that that I struggle a lot less with because I may be strong or proficient in that area. And as a parent in a strong marriage to a child who has special needs, there are challenges that I face that are not as big as those of other people, but everybody's situation is different. And when it comes to me and the allocation of my time, that's like, I should have two black eyes for the fight that I have with myself. And usually the lesser version of myself, the one that doesn't make the best use of time, that dude wins a lot. So this topic, I know if I have challenges as a parent or caregiver to one with special needs that are smaller than someone who may be a single parent and has big things, then I know that these are things that people can relate to. And I know the value that Brian has to bring in it, because like I said, the things where I may be stronger than him or vice versa, this is one of those things where he's got a better handle on it than me. And spiritually speaking, these are the weights that I'm lifting to strengthen my spirit and get better at, and what I'm looking at in 2023 and beyond. So Brian, if you continue, and then let's, give them a little bit of, let's go ahead and give them some visuals to go with some of the stuff that we're talking about.
Okay, good. So, well, I would just say this, just keep in mind that the more value you place on your time, and be thinking about it consciously as you go through your day and the activities. And I know that there's so much of a tendency these days to be distracted by social media and scrolling and everything. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying that be conscious of the cost of doing that. Besides the input of garbage or whatever, stimulus that you get, just understand that, give yourself a time frame, kind of like you would in a meeting. Consider it to be a meeting of, a downtime, right? So, hey, I'm going to spend 15 minutes scrolling, not going to think about anything, just going to kind of lose myself in social media. Fine, if that's what you want to do. But then give yourself time, put a timer on it and be done. Do it, focus, and be done. Because you can lose sense of time if you get distracted. And by the way, that goes with everything. That goes with watching television or sports or, taking a walk. And all of those things have their place and have value, right? To get grounded, again, me and my crossword puzzle, to get grounded, to put your feet in the sand, or put walk around water, or whatever it is that you get grounded. There's a tremendous amount of value. Spirituality is a tremendous amount of value, but you want to be conscious of the time so you don't lose yourself in all of that, especially if you're talking about building a business and launching an initiative that's going to, and it's going to enhance your life, bringing more cash into your household, or finding a way to quit the job you hate, or stop working for somebody else's dreams and start working for your own dreams, or as a family member with special needs, where you can focus on the needs of your family, and business has its place, within that. So, so that being said, again, put value on your time, and I don't care. I tell people all the time, my time is worth. If somebody was going to hire me as a consultant, I'm making $400 an hour as a consultant. Lawyers charge $600-800 an hour, and I'm not saying that I'm a lawyer, but for certain kinds of business consulting work that I do, $400 an hour is actually pretty cheap for the value that I bring. I'm very conscious of that, the value that I bring, and that's the other thing, right? If you don't think that you bring value, and so that you don't think you're worth the amount of money that you're charging people, that's a mindset shift that you're going to have to go through, that you're going to have to change, because people will not value you in your time. A lot of times when you start a brand new business, especially if it's consulting or advising, you're like, I don't know if anybody's going to pay me. I think I'm just going to charge $40 an hour. I don't know if anybody's going to pay me that. I don't think that, I'm not sure if they're worth it. That's your own, mishigas, as we say. That's your own issue that, that you have to overcome, because the reality is, if you don't value it, they won't either. So
keep in mind.
But let me say this. It's okay to negotiate that, but give yourself value. $100 an hour, or whatever you believe your hourly rate is for the work that you do. Be confident in that. You provide value, so you should be compensated for the value that you bring. If you want to negotiate or give a bulk rate or a discount, for doing a whole month, or pay me in advance and then I'll give you X amount of hours, you can do that. But don't minimize your value that you bring.
Yeah, just keep in mind that time, much like money, is one of two things. You're a horrible master, right? But a great servant. And whether it's which one of those it is depends on how we end up treating it. And I have had each of those things be both of those things to me. I know what it's like to be to have money as a master when you don't have enough. I know what it's like to have it as a servant when you have more of it at the end of the month than you do have month. I know both. I know what it's like to also be a servant to time, as opposed to having it serve you well. But the good news about it is that we get to choose which one of those takes place, depending on how we invest in each one of them. So with that said.
Yeah. So that's So that's a requirement, value your time. Value your time, and you will see that people will respect you based on that as well. And the activities that you choose to take to participate in, again, have a value. And you can do things that are not monetary, that add value to your being, your exercise routine, your food intake, all of that stuff, spirituality. There's value to that because it's over it's over your entire being. So I definitely encourage you to do that, but just be conscious of that value, that time. So with that being said, Shawn, did you want to show some stuff?
Yeah, let me do that, and let me know if it actually shows.
Okay, let's go ahead and hit the slideshow on that.
Okay. Why am I not seeing slideshow from the beginning?
Yeah. So I had done this as a training for the folks in our wealth maximization strategy company. If you want to flip through there, I'm not sure if there's anything in particular, which one in particular you wanted to kind of talk. We're not going to do the whole slideshow, folks. We're not going to go through all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you having a mission statement is important. Why, what is it you're doing? Why are you doing it? Who are you what are you hoping to achieve? What's your goal in life? Have a mission statement, be bold, it's the first thing as you open your plan, you want to read it and feel, and you want to feel excited, invigorated. You don't want to say, oh, I'm going to show you an example of a ridiculous, impossible statement. So kind of telling you, don't do this, because you want to make sure that it's something that you can achieve. It excites you. In some cases, it scares you to think, oh my God, I'm really thinking big. But the reality
objective
is
reality.
You want to think big, but have some objective reality. Go ahead. Is there more there? There you go. So again, this was just an example of I want to help 1 million families in the next 2 years in downtown Los Angeles. First of all, I don't even think there's 1 million families in downtown LA. Second of all, to do that in 24 months, that's bold. And what does that mean? Personally help. That's just, I threw this out as an example of something that may not actually be achievable. While that would be scary, I'm not even sure the details of all that. So be clear about your mission. I threw this up there just as an example. Be clear about your mission so that it's bold, but it excites you, lights you up while you're doing it. Again, value, we talked about this already. You can kind of flip through this, Shawn. This is, understanding your own value, how much time, how much time how much money is your time worth? You can keep flipping through this, bud. Set your hours, start thinking about where you spend it, right? Would somebody pay you, by the way, $160 an hour to do the thing that you're doing, right? So if you can find somebody else do it for less, find somebody else do it less and give that time to building your business. So again, this is relative to our financial business. Think about what target market you're trying to go after, whether it's Tesla drivers or Twitter users. I don't know, I'm on an Elon Musk thing. Or, maybe it's, millennials, or I want to help church communities, or, figure out what the target market is. Maybe I want to help families with special needs. What's the problem in that demographic, and how are you going to solve that problem? This should be part of your business plan. Here's my mission. Here's the market that I'm identifying. Here's the problem in that market. Here's my solution to that problem. Here's how big that market, that opportunity is, right? So those are some of the real key things to have in your business plan. Again, one more time, right? What's my mission? What's my goal? What's the market I'm going after? What's their problem? How's my solution to their problem? How big is that opportunity? Right? Those are the kinds of things that you want to make sure that you're putting in there. The objectives this is sort of the who, what, when, where, how. So we have our target market's the who. The solution is the what. Objective is how we're going to get there. And you can be specific about these things. So, and again, this was relative to our specific business. So if you take the goal that you're trying to accomplish, so let's say you're doing some referral business. And you get your income is based on a percentage of referrals that you make. So yeah, let's leave it here for a second, Shawn. So let's say it's based on a percentage. Well, how much referral business do you have to generate in order to earn that commission, right? So you can take, let's say again, you want to make $100,000 a year, you make a 20% commission. You have to generate $500,000 in business to earn $100,000 in commissions, right? So kind of work it that way. Okay, so what's it going to take to earn $500,000 in in business. And then, that's how you kind of back into what you're trying to accomplish. That's the objective. Like, here's how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to go get, I'm going to go help 25 companies, each at, $20,000. That's $500,000. I'm going to earn $100,000. So 25 companies, that's 2 a month, a little over 2 a month, right? So that means 1 every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, I've got to be generating another referral piece of business. So that means that of my 25 hours that I'm working, that 25 hours has to go towards that closing. 25 hours a week, 2 weeks, it's 50 hours, closing that piece of business, right? So now you're just getting very specific.
And this specific part right here is what I really want Brian to touch on today, because I think it is, because it's broad. And when it comes to, for the core of our audience, as well as the core of who we look to serve in financial services, which is families that, like ours, have members with special needs. When you talk about running the roof over your head on the household and everything, this is where it touches really any and everyone, whether you're working a job or you're starting a business, just about making sure that, again, that money is a servant as opposed to being a master.
Right. So as you look at any company, if you look at that financial health of a company, you evaluate that health by 3 key financial statements. Okay. So if you run your business, or really if you run your household, utilizing these same 3 financial statements, you're going to see where the value comes in, right? So the 3 financial statements are your balance sheet, your profit and loss, and your cash flow statement. Okay. So let's talk about those. So balance sheet, what that determines is your net worth, right? How much do you have in assets? Now, if it's your home, if you're talking about your personal life, your balance sheet is maybe it's your real estate, your home, cash in the bank, investments, retirement, all that stuff, your assets, minus the liabilities. Okay, minus what you owe on your mortgage, what you owe on your car, what you owe in debt, right? Your balance sheet is everything you own minus everything you owe. Okay, so your balance sheet talks about your net worth, right? So assets minus liability, that's your balance sheet. Your profit and loss statement is, and again, balance sheet is ongoing. That just goes on. That all the assets and liabilities, those are ongoing over the course. They cross over years, months. They cross over a period of time. Profit and loss is based on a particular unit. So whether it's a month or quarter or a year, your profit and loss is your income minus your expenses. Okay, so your income, how much money are you bringing in, minus what's the cost. What are your expenses? What's it costing you to run that business, or what's it costing you to run your household? Do you have enough income coming in to offset the amount of expense it takes to run your home? Income in your business, revenue streams in your business minus the expenses that it takes, right? That is that's your profitability. And again, you can measure it monthly profitability, quarterly, annually, right? That is, remember, we always talk about it's what you keep, not what you make. A lot of people make a lot of money, but they spend a lot more, right? So it's what you keep. That's your profitability. Now, your investments are not part of your P&L. Investments, dollars that go into your investments are not P&L. Investment dollars are on your balance sheet. They're part of your assets. If you're putting money into a life insurance policy, that's a permanent policy that has cash value. That is an asset. It may cost you more to buy a permanent policy than a term policy. A term policy is in your expense category. A permanent policy is on your balance sheet. That's an asset. Okay, so keep that in mind. Those are key differences right there. So your net worth for your balance sheet, your profitability for your profit and loss. And then at the end of every month, if there's money left over at the end of every month, that is part of your cash flow statement. So again, balance sheet is ongoing from beginning of time to the end, right? To whatever that end is. Profit and loss is segmented by time. Cash flow statement is also segmented by time, but it also goes into, again, it's managing your flow, right? Do you have more money coming in? So what are you doing with the money left over of your profit and loss, right? So you've got money left over every month. Is it sitting in an emergency fund? Are you taking that and putting that towards long-term growth? Are you buying assets with it? Maybe you're buying assets with it. You're taking that money and you're purchasing assets that do 2 things: increase your net worth on the balance sheet, and generate income, which improves your profitability on your P&L. So start thinking about your activity in these three key financial statements: balance sheet, profit and loss, and cash flow. And you'll start to build something that you can actually create some legacy with. Yes, sir. You
And
said
I
so.
wanted to touch on two things and ask you to chime in, Brian, because you mentioned life insurance. You mentioned a term policy. Brian mentioned a term policy being more of a liability and a permanent one being an asset. The permanent one because it actually builds, has a potential to build cash value depending upon the product. Now, some of you that have some familiarity with life insurance may be thinking, well, if there's a term policy that gives you a return of premium at the end of the term, so why would that not be an asset as well? Well, there's usually two things that are going to dictate the return of the premium, and at the very least being the end of the term, right? So there's unpredictable times as to when you have access to anything in terms of dollars coming in from the policy. Whereas with a permanent one, you get to dictate that. The other thing I wanted you to comment on really quick before we move on from this one, Brian, is that you talked about the difference between, you made a post recently, it talked about the difference between life insurance and the banking system as it relates to financial stability. And the example you gave was the responsibility to shareholders and, how much can be lent out in terms of value. If you could touch on that in a really short, quick window, I think that'd be something that people would get value out of.
Yeah, it's a much longer conversation, but here's the thing: insurance companies and banks are both financial intermediaries. In other words, money goes in, they make investments, and they're allowed to leverage the assets. So for a bank, and I mean all banks, not just the bank on the corner. I mean
The system,
the JP Morgans, the Morgan Stanleys, Chase Bank, all those companies make money by lending money out, right? And the advantage that they have is that you put a dollar in, they can lend 10 times that dollar to other people. They make their profitability is in lending money out, right? So they use your money to leverage and create a revenue stream. The insurance companies don't do that. The insurance companies, their commitment to their shareholders, basically their money goes out of an insurance company, to an individual who puts money in when that person dies. So it's based on a risk. They're taking a risk. The money that you put in, they will pay out, but it's upon a certain activity happening. It's not, they don't lend out 10 times. What they do is they actually invest that money into safe, conservative investments that builds a return for them and builds a return for the shareholders or the policy holders, depending on what kind of insurance company that is. That's a much different financial model than the banks. And here's the real secret to all of this. Banks have trillions of dollars in life insurance products and companies. So you put your money in the bank or put your money where the bank puts its money, which is our insurance products and insurance companies. So hopefully that answered that question, Shawn, that you brought
up.
Good.
Yeah, because I know some people will ask, well, what happens if an insurance company goes under versus a bank going under? Not only is there reinsurance where they have to have money to remain solvent and be able to show it so that they can take care of their liabilities, but they operate under different rules, which is the bank can lend out even what a banking system allows the banks to lend out maybe what they don't even necessarily have.
Correct.
Whereas a life insurance company has to say, this is what we've got, and you have to be able to show it and prove it.
Right. The bank will put out, they can, again, 10 times out for every dollar coming in, which means their reserves, they have a very low reserve level. That's why the FDIC does insure your bank account, but only up to $250,000. So if you had $1 million in the bank and the bank went under, you're only insured for $250,000 because that's a limited amount. A life insurance company, they basically pay out about 8 to 10% of the money that they take in. So your money is much safer in a life insurance policy than it is in a bank.
And if you read your bank statement where it tells you what the amount is, because that amount you said is 200,000. It's only within the last 10 years or less that amount has been up to that point. It used to be less. But if you look at your statement, it will also tell you, and this is the epitome of vague, that they can pay that amount out in a reasonable amount of time. So you tell me what a reasonable amount of time is. Now, again, the word here, the thought here, much like term life insurance versus permanent life insurance, isn't get one versus the other. And it isn't, and some people will say this, you shouldn't put your money in a bank, you should put it in a credit union. We're not telling anybody to do any of those things. We're just saying whatever you do, make informed decisions, because all of these things, even bank accounts, they serve their purpose. So those are just things to know. We just want to make sure people are making well-informed decisions about their time and their money.
And you can reach out to us and we can talk about this if as how it fits your personal situation. This page here really is and so again, hopefully you've seen as you put the business plan together. Now you've got ways of measuring your activity. You've got your objective. You've got your, which market you're going after, how big the opportunity is. Now you've got some financial statements so you can measure your activity. So now understanding your strengths, what you are good at, what is it that you are good at? And this is whether you're running your household or running a business. Are you good at, and again, as I listed a few things, are you good at accounting? Are you good at recruiting? Are you good at personnel development? Are you good at sales or business development? Are you better at being an executive and managing people, right? Where's your strength? Eventually, you'd like to be good at all of it, but the reality is you don't have to be good at all of it. Hire somebody who's good at that. Hire the accountant, hire the recruiter, right? Hire somebody who can be a trainer or sign your folks up to a training program that they can learn that skill, because you can't do all of it. It'd be great when you first get started to do it, but understand what you're good at, what your strengths are. There are things that I'm not very good at. Shawn's like, look, let's do this as our topic. Cool. I know I'm not great at remembering people's birthdays and sending out gifts for the holiday. I just, it's not part of my thinking. I'm really good at taking a concept and boiling it down to easy to digest bits so that people can understand a more complex. I'm really good at translating complex concepts. So again, understand your strengths. So eventually you want to be good at all of it, but recruit or hire people who are really good at these kinds of things.
And this is about, remember, this is about life. If you get into business, it should be to get you to the life that you want, whether it's to get the things you want or get you the feeling that you want from adding value to people and being the solution to the problem that they have. But when we think of teams, like, my attorney, my financial advisor, my doctor, unless you're walking around in life and you can literally successfully be the stereotypical Caribbean family on A Living Color, where I was the cook, the dishwasher, 5 things, and you're really good at all of those things, which nobody is, right? What do they say? Jack of all trades, master of none. Correct. Everybody should have a team in life. That's not something that's reserved for wealthy people. You should have a team that grounds you spiritually. Maybe it just consists of books. Maybe it consists of an actual church that you belong to or something of that sort, right? Your team should consist of a good, trusted doctor, whether it's a general practitioner or a set of specialists. You should have part of your team, and this is not a plug for us, but whether it's us or somebody else, there should be somebody that's a financial professional that can help you make sure that your money becomes your servant as opposed to your master. Somebody that helps you with that. Somebody that helps you with nutrition. That might simply be the right books. That doesn't mean you need to go out and spend dollars on the most expensive professional to get something done, but you do get what you pay for in some cases too. The bottom line is, when it comes to living life and the time that we have on this planet, it is limited. So we should be as intentional with it as we possibly can, and have people that are strong in all the various areas. Become a specialist before you become a generalist.
Yeah, just again, understanding what you're really good at. Focus on that thing that you're really good at. It's a jack of all trades, it's tough to do all of it. So focus on the area you're good at, get some proficiency there, and then you can expand from there. So on that, let's remove that from the screen there. Boop. So as we get to close out, hopefully these are just ideas that we give you when it comes to writing your business plan. The more, and this is really a life plan. This is really like specific details of the things that you can include in your plan that give you something that you can go back to get inspiration from, to remind you why you're doing this. You're going to have some days where you're like, why did I decide to do this? Remind you why you're doing it, because the why are you doing this? It's a big thing that comes up. How you're doing it. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot that I was intending to do this. So maybe I'll go there. So those days that you have a difficult time, your plan reminds you why you're doing it, how to do it, and then you've got tools to measure and evaluate your success. And as you go along, your plan is going to continue to adjust and change as you move forward. So hopefully this is helpful as you start thinking about 2023. I always spend this time of year thinking about what is it I want to accomplish. I've already laid stuff out, the amount of money I'm making, the different areas of income, where they're coming from for me personally, and start thinking about this for you. Include your family in the conversation if you can, so that they understand what you're going for and what you're trying to accomplish, and they can root you on. And that way, kids don't get upset. You're like, Dad, you didn't come to the game. I know, son. I had this really important meeting to get to close this business. So those are the kinds of things that you want to make sure that you include people in the conversation. Hopefully, this is helpful for all of you. We've got a couple things to say here at the end of the year. First of all, it's been an amazing year. Shawn and I are blessed to be doing this, to have the reach that we have, to talk to impact as many people as we've been able to. We're grateful for the relationships that we have been able to maintain throughout, not only through the pandemic, but because of this project. And one of our guests was one of the first elected city councilman with autism in the city of Burbank. He was just elected mayor of the city of Burbank. So we're proud of Constantine Anthony. Yes, I apologize. Appointed mayor. Yeah. That's how Burbank does it. They appoint from the city council. They appoint the mayor. So he's been appointed mayor of the city of Burbank, California. So we're proud of him. We're proud of all of the work that that our guests have been able to accomplish. Our friend Billy Price at Billy Footwear. He's got a phenomenal story. You should see his story. Go online here. We're going to put this up on the screen. Oh, look at that. We both put that down at the same time. That's so funny. By the way, if you buy shoes, adaptive footwear from Billy, use this referral on the screen in the comment section to get a discount, a 10% discount for anything that you buy on his show, on his website. But we love Billy Price. We've had him on the show a couple of times, and he's really phenomenal individual, and his story is so amazing and so compelling. We're going to have Susanna Peace back on here one of these days soon. She's got a book that's coming out pretty soon. Mm-hmm. Got a few other folks that put books out that we're going to have back on the show, but Susanna's been a huge friend of ours, individually, personally, and on the show. So grateful for the friendships and the relationships that we've developed here through this podcast. So thank you all for listening. Thank my daughter, Jo, who's always on. Jo is always she's an avid listener, supporter, and my daughter. So I'm happy about that. And Shawn Hall, we couldn't do this without you. So thank you so much for being a part of our family. Shawn Francis, I thank you for this continued partnership and this relationship and our business work that we do together. And I hope that there's more of where this all came from as we go forward. So thank you. And last thing I always say at the end of every show, empathy and love, folks. Empathy and love. Empathy now. You never know what somebody's going through, so please be empathetic. And if you look through that, lenses of love, the world is just a better place. Well, thank you for catching us live on Facebook and on our YouTube channel at We Are Just Two Dads, and on podcast outlets and WSTXM AM radio. Love to all of you. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. And with that, I'll throw it to you, Shawn, to close us out.
Okay. I want to send peace, love, and greetings to Robert Moorhead, our great friend on St. Croix, who is responsible for us being on WSTX. He's not looking for that plug, but I think that means something, especially for me to be able to be on the radio back home. I also want to, really quick, I'm only going to mention this name because I don't know where else to find the post. There's a comedian by the name of Amanda Seals, who posts a lot of interesting things, but she made this post the other day, and I don't have the link for it, where she said, if you want a good cry to give you faith in humanity, swipe right. And the post consisted of, there's a gentleman who has special needs. I do not even remember his name. He works at a store, I believe, and somewhere on the East Coast, where there's middle of a snowstorm. I think he went to the store expecting that the store was going to be open. It was closed, and he's walking home, and he happens to be a white gentleman. He stopped near an apartment or home where a Black woman and her boyfriend were just minding their business, and they heard kind of like literal crying and asking for help. She opened the door, took him in, put him in front of the fireplace, and they had to like get his sock, like cut his socks off of him because he had frostbite. They fed him, they washed his clothes and everything, got hold of his family to let him know that he was okay. And then she made a post about the extent that the frostbite had come to because she didn't know what to do. Somebody responded to the post on social media, a family. They came to her home, picked him up, took him to the hospital. She rides with him to the hospital saying, look, nobody's going to harm you. You're going to be just fine. Took him to the hospital, and he is on the mend now. And on one hand, that's like, why wouldn't you do that? Right. But at the same time, the clicks go to the stories of the opposite end of the spectrum more than they do the stories on that end. So make sure you find it and know that there's still good people out there. As always, I want to thank the women in my life without whom I would not be. My appreciation and depth for them is more than it ordinarily is. That is my amazing mom, Jan, and my wife, Laura. Remember, everybody needs the same thing. We need to be seen. We need to be heard. We need to know that we matter. Brian and I have a commitment to help 1,000 families over the next 12 months in the special needs community build a bridge between where they are and where they want to be, between financial service, education, and opportunity. Thank each and every one of you. We will see you next year. And wherever you're catching us, live or otherwise, just remember that we love you.
Bye, everybody. See you next year.